Hey guys, welcome to The Strong Young Man. There is only one form of cholesterol, and it is undeniably and irrefutably good for you. For the chemists out there, its chemical formula is C27H46O. Our body makes about 1200 milligrams of cholesterol per day and is a precursor to important hormones such as testosterone, estradiol, progesterone, aldosterone, cortisol, and vitamin D. Understand this one concept now. Cholesterol is not toxic. If you don't get enough cholesterol from the food you eat, your body will manufacture it. Cholesterol is not water soluble and it can't be dissolved in blood, meaning it can't be pumped around the body. Cholesterol and other fat-soluble compounds such as triglycerides are transported through the blood vessels by hitching a ride on various lipoproteins. The lipoprotein types are all displayed on this lipid panel liquid chromatography. VLDL, or very low density lipoprotein, is an unhealthy form of lipoprotein. Illustrated in the yellow section of the graph, VLDL is manufactured by the liver in order to rid the liver of triglycerides caused by high processed fructose consumption. They donate their triglycerides to cells for energy supply, and as a result, they then become intermediate density lipoprotein. IDL, or intermediate density lipoprotein, is another unhealthy form of lipoprotein. Illustrated in the green section of the graph, IDL is created from VLDL and donates their cholesterol and triglycerides to cells for energy supply, and as a result, they then become LDLA. LDLA, or low density lipoprotein A, is a healthy form of lipoprotein. Yes, I said a healthy form of lipoprotein. Many studies have proven that concentrations of LDL in the blood alone are not an accurate prediction of cardiovascular disease. In a 2009 study involving 137,000 patients who presented in hospitals with vascular disease, more than 75% of the patients admitted had LDL levels well below the population average. LDLA is essential for healthy immune function, and humans that have lower levels of LDLA have higher rates of infectious diseases. Illustrated in the orange section of the graph, LDLA is large and buoyant and is created from IDL. LDLA donate their cholesterol and triglycerides to cells for energy supply. LDLB, or low-density lipoprotein B, is an unhealthy, glycated form of lipoprotein. Illustrated in the pink section of the graph, LDLB is created from oxidized LDLA due to consuming large quantities of processed sugar and inflammatory seed oils. These particles are small, dense, and thick, and they will penetrate the endothelium, the tissue lining our arteries and veins. Once LDLB enters the subendothelial space, it is likely to become stuck, which is what contributes to the buildup of atherosclerotic plaques. HDL, or high-density lipoprotein, illustrated on the far right of the graph, is a universally healthy form of lipoprotein. HDL is the form of lipoprotein left when all the triglycerides have been donated from LDLA particles. It returns to the liver to take any excess cholesterol back for recycling. Circulating HDL particles provide potent protection of LDL from oxidative damage by free radicals. It can also remove atherosclerotic plaques stuck in the subendothelial space through a process called delipidation, reversing the damage that these oxidized particles cause. High LDL can be a bad thing because the LDL can get stuck under the endothelium and cause plaque to form on the arteries. Understand that this only happens if LDL becomes glycated. Most lipid panels provided by your doctor will only consist of one number, which is the two concentrations added together. This is because it's too hard to distinguish the two unless you do lipid panel liquid chromatography. This is problematic because someone could have a large concentration of healthy LDLA and a small concentration of unhealthy LDLB, but still present with a total LDL the same as a person who has a large concentration of unhealthy LDLB and a small concentration of healthy LDLA. So how can you determine if you have a healthy lipid panel? Well, as I mentioned, the only true way to see your lipoprotein distribution is to do a lipid panel liquid chromatography. If you're a healthy individual, it'll spit out something like this. We can see clear peaks of LDLA and HDL peaking at the top of the chart. We can also see low concentrations of VLDL, IDL, and LDLB. If you are an unhealthy individual, your lipid panel will look like this. The HDL peak is reduced and much of the healthy LDLA has been oxidized to the glycated LDLB. Higher concentrations of VLDL and IDL are also present in an unhealthy pattern. In a nutshell, consuming large quantities of processed fructose will increase the concentrations of the unhealthy VLDL and IDL. Consuming large quantities of polyunsaturated fats, especially from processed sources such as seed oils with large amounts of linoleic acid, will increase the concentration of LDLB. Consuming large quantities of saturated fats from animal products such as meat, eggs, and butter will increase the concentration of LDLA and HDL. If you can't be bothered getting a lipid panel liquid chromatography, getting a blood test that reports your lipid studies can indicate with a fair amount of accuracy the state of your lipoprotein distribution. These are my results from lipid studies taken from a recent blood test. What you want to see is your HDL to be as high as possible. Being above the reference range is an indication that you are healthy. As you can see, my HDL supersedes the reference range. Ignore the LDL for now. What we're going to do is calculate the concentration of our combined VLDL and IDL. To do this, we need to get our total non-HDL concentration and subtract our LDL concentration. For me, this equates to 0.3 millimoles per litre. The lower the concentration of VLDL and IDL, the better. This concentration should somewhat correlate to your triglyceride concentration because VLDL is manufactured to distribute the triglycerides to be used for energy, which then converts to IDL. High triglyceride concentration in the blood is an indicator of high processed fructose or alcohol consumption, and the lower the concentration of triglycerides, the better. Circling back to LDL, the concentration of this lipoprotein is not as important as how this number is interpreted in conjunction with other cardiovascular risk factors. A high concentration of LDL is okay as long as it's LDLA and not LDLB. LDLB is created from oxidized LDLA, which becomes glycated from high blood sugar levels over time. Chronically high blood sugar is something found in the insulin resistant. A fasting glucose and fasting insulin test can be used to evaluate your overall metabolic health. These will tell you if your LDL is something to be worried about. You must be fasted for this test, including no black coffee. Any number in the normal range is fine. If you can't get this test, there is another proxy you can use to get an indication of your overall metabolic health. As sugar is inflammatory, it causes other biomarkers in the blood to change. High sensitivity C-reactive protein is an inflammatory marker that represents the average amount of inflammation a blood cell has experienced in its life. Given the life of a blood cell is about 120 days, your high sensitivity C-reactive protein concentration is a reliable indication of the average inflammation your blood cells have experienced over the last 4 months. This number will increase with processed sugar consumption, and hence the lower this number, the lower the blood sugar concentration has been over the last 120 days. This means that less LDLA will have oxidized to LDLB in your blood. Basically, high LDL is healthy as long as you have a low concentration of high sensitivity C-reactive protein. The final thing I want to mention is that you shouldn't be using drugs like statins to lower your LDL. The studies that claim to prove they work aren't nearly as conclusive as the public has been led to believe. They aren't able to increase the removal of glycated LDLB lipoproteins. How they work is by removing the healthy and immunoprotective LDLA so that they can't be oxidized in the future. Moreover, statins come with side effects such as balance issues, muscle pain, and memory loss. Statins interfere with the body's ability to make cholesterol, which will have cascading effects to the entire human body. Statins also cause significant increases to blood glucose and blood insulin levels, which is a key indicator of people with cardiovascular disease. The best way to correct your lipid profile is to consume a high saturated fat, low processed seed oil, and low processed sugar diet. Polyunsaturated omega-3 fatty acids from natural sources such as wild-caught fish and grass-fed beef are the best remedy to raise HDL. But don't go too far with this. High levels of polyunsaturated fats oxidize easily, and high levels of oxidation is a problem for atherosclerotic plaque buildup. Don't get your omega-3 fatty acids via a fish oil supplement, as the fats in these capsules are almost certainly oxidized already. With the right diet, an unhealthy lipid panel can be turned around in weeks. Thanks for watching today's episode. In episode 111, I'll run through how to conquer fear. Subscribe and click the bell icon to be notified when it drops. Catch you then.